You've been told to
Dopamine
run from
detox?
dopamine, to detox, to disconnect, to starve your brain of every pleasure. But what if that advice is the very thing keeping you stuck? Because your brain doesn't want silence, it wants direction. And when you learn how to train it instead of torture it, discipline stops feeling like pain and starts feeling like power. Think about it. You wake up, grab your phone, get that instant dopamine hit, and by the time you need to focus, your brain's already tired. You're not lazy, you're overloaded. What if I told you that the secret to productivity isn't cutting pleasure, but controlling when and how you experience it? That 5 minutes could completely rewire your mindset for mental focus and personal growth. Because the problem isn't dopamine, it's timing. And if you've ever wondered why motivation fades or why detoxing never lasts, this video will change the way you think about effort, reward, and how to live better. So stay with me. By the end, you'll understand how to make your brain crave the grind, not escape it. Most people think focus is about willpower, pushing harder, grinding longer, cutting out every distraction. But focus isn't force, it's chemistry. And once you understand how your brain actually works, you realize discipline isn't about self control, it's about self alignment. Dopamine isn't your enemy, it's the steering wheel. Learn to steer it right, and you don't just study better, you live better. See, dopamine doesn't care about right or wrong, it only cares about reward prediction. When your brain expects pleasure from the easy stuff, scrolling, sugar, notifications, you train it to chase shortcuts. That's why focus feels painful. Your brain's not tired, it's confused. It's stuck in a loop where high stimulation habits kill low stimulation goals. And that's where the chaos begins. The real challenge isn't studying, working, or building productivity. It's learning how to reset your baseline, to teach your mind to crave progress instead of instant gratification. That's what dopamine loading is really about. Not cutting pleasure, but sequencing it. Structuring your day so your mind earns its own reward. That's when discipline turns from friction into flow. But before we dive into how to build that system, let's look at why it's so hard to focus in the first place. Because once you see how your daily dopamine graph really looks, the peaks, the crashes, the chaos, everything starts to make sense. Every morning starts with the same ritual, phone in hand before the first conscious thought. A flood of notifications, reels, and dopamine hits before your brain even boots up. Feels harmless, right? But that's the start of the crash. When it's time to study, work, or focus, the dopamine tank's already empty. What was supposed to feel productive now feels like punishment. The brain, trained for constant novelty, revolts against stillness. It's a vicious loop. 1 minute you're planning your day, the next you're deep into a 5 minute scroll that somehow turned into an hour. By the time you try to study, your mental baseline is fried. Your brain's reward system now thinks focus equals boredom and distraction equals pleasure. It's not laziness, it's neurochemistry out of sync with self development and personal growth. Then comes the midday crash, a sugar heavy lunch, another dopamine spike, followed by the inevitable slump. You tell yourself you'll get serious later, but later never feels like the right time. The brain doesn't want important, it wants easy. Every notification, every quick laugh online, every bite of junk food, they all train your mindset to crave shortcuts instead of challenge. And here's the scary part. After a while, you stop trusting your own willpower. You start believing you're broken, when in truth, your reward system just forgot what real reward feels like. But there's a way to reset it, not by detoxing, but by training your dopamine. That's where things start to get interesting. Here's where the magic happens. Not detox, not deprivation, but balance. The secret isn't cutting dopamine, it's controlling the contrast. The method, called dopamine loading, flips your daily pattern upside down. Instead of chasing small rewards all day and drowning in guilt later, you flip the script, delay the pleasure, earn it, and let your brain crave focus again. It's time management at the neurochemical level. Imagine waking up and doing less. No phone, no dopamine bombs, just stillness. A cold shower, sunlight, silence. The brain recalibrates. When you study or work after that, the effort feels clearer, sharper. You're no longer fighting distraction. You're building discipline through natural dopamine. Then, at the end of the day, when everything's done, that's when you unleash the reward. The series, the food, the hangout. and suddenly, productivity becomes addictive. The creator of this approach used it to study for 10 hours a day, ace his exams, and still enjoy his evenings guilt-free. Not because he was superhuman, but because he learned to train his dopamine, not detox from it. He separated the low dopamine hours, focus, solitude, progress, from the high dopamine hours, pleasure, connection, rest. The brain, craving the reward, started linking mental focus to achievement instead of boredom. It's like promising your mind a dopamine feast, but only after it earns it. The brain loves that. And once you see how fast your energy, mindset, and motivation shift, you'll never want to go back to random reward loops again. Because here's the twist. It's not just about focus or study. This principle can reshape your entire day, and that's what comes next. Picture this, a day designed not by chance, but by chemistry. The alarm rings at 7:30, and instead of doom scrolling, you start your first high-focus block. No distractions, no music, no phone, just you and your work. 4 hours later, you've already done more than most people do in an entire day. That's not just discipline, that's dopamine working for you. Every minute of mental focus in the morning compounds into productivity that lasts all day. Then comes the gym. No headphones, no playlist, just silence and movement. It's not punishment, it's rewiring. Exercise gives your brain a clean shot of natural dopamine, preparing it for the next deep work session. This is personal growth in action, a form of meditation through movement. You're no longer escaping your routine, you're mastering it. And when the mind learns to find peace in effort, self-development becomes automatic. After lunch, it's social time. Talk to people, step outside, let your brain breathe. The trick isn't to kill pleasure, it's to schedule it. By separating reward from work, you build anticipation instead of guilt. Around 2 p.m., you dive back in. That second work block between 14H and 19H becomes your performance zone. You're calm, sharp, almost detached. That's productivity in its purest form. When the clock hits 19H, the reward begins. Dinner, laughter, anime, or whatever lights you up. The mind celebrates the effort, the body relaxes. You've earned it. It's not indulgence, it's integration. Dopamine becomes your evening ritual, not your morning distraction. And the best part, each day builds on the last. But to make this sustainable, there's one rule everyone forgets: the difference between natural and artificial dopamine. Here's the thing. Not all dopamine is created equal. There's the kind that fuels personal growth, sunlight on your skin, a good workout, a deep conversation. And there's the kind that quietly drains you. Endless scrolling, ultra-edited videos, junk food. The first builds discipline, the second destroys it. Understanding that difference changes everything. Because once you start feeding your brain real rewards, productivity stops feeling forced. It becomes a byproduct of a healthy mind. Think about your morning. Scrolling through social media gives you microdoses of fake progress. But walking outside for 5 minutes? That's dopamine training. It teaches your brain that pleasure can come from movement, clarity, silence. You don't need to exile joy, just reprogram where it comes from. Try this tomorrow. Before opening your phone, open a window. Let sunlight hit your face. You'll feel a small shift, the start of mental focus built on nature, not noise. This method doesn't make life boring. It makes pleasure sustainable. When you stop giving your brain everything instantly, it starts to earn it again. The funny part? You'll start craving the hard stuff, deep work, long runs, real conversations. Because the contrast between effort and reward becomes the most satisfying life lesson of all. That's not theory, that's neurochemistry doing what it was designed to do. And the more you practice it, the more your mindset sharpens. The world doesn't feel overwhelming anymore. It feels structured, intentional. You're no longer reacting to dopamine spikes, you're directing them. But there's one more layer to this: how to turn this daily practice into a lifelong system of growth and self-control. And that's where we're heading next. The real power of dopamine loading isn't in one perfect day, it's in consistency. Doing it once gives clarity. Doing it daily builds character. The goal isn't to survive your schedule, but to design it. When you learn to control your dopamine, you stop living reactively and start living intentionally. Every hour becomes an investment in self-development. Every routine an act of personal growth. That's what real freedom looks like: structure that serves you, not traps you. This method can work beyond studying or work. Think about creative projects, business, fitness, even relationships. Imagine applying the same rule: earn the reward. You'll find that joy hits harder when it's delayed. It's like training your brain to appreciate silence before music. Suddenly, discipline stops being a struggle and becomes your default mode. That's when productivity and peace start living in the same space. To make it stick, start simple. No need for extreme detoxes or overnight transformations. Pick one high dopamine habit to delay, maybe checking your phone or watching YouTube, and one low dopamine habit to add, like journaling, stretching, or a 5-minute walk. Small contrasts lead to massive rewiring. Over time, this becomes muscle memory, mental focus on autopilot. But there's a secret layer most people miss. This system works because it aligns with something deeper than dopamine: purpose. When pleasure serves your mission, everything changes. And that's the missing piece we'll uncover next: how meaning turns your habits into momentum. Discipline without meaning eventually collapses. That's why most people burn out. They build habits without a why. Dopamine can drive you for a while, but purpose sustains you for life. When your mindset connects every small action to something bigger, your mission, your growth, your evolution, even discomfort becomes sacred. The brain stops asking, "Do I have to?" and starts whispering, "This is who I am." That's real self-development. Purpose also amplifies time management. When you know why your hours matter, you stop wasting them. You study differently. You work differently. Even rest feels intentional. The same dopamine that once trapped you now fuels you because it's linked to meaning, not escape. Every moment becomes a transaction between who you are and who you're becoming. That's personal growth in its rawest form. Think about the people who inspire you most: athletes, creators, thinkers. They all mastered this balance: pain paired with purpose. They've learned that the brain rewards effort aligned with identity. You don't need their talent, just their awareness. Each time you delay pleasure for progress, you're rewriting your brain's code for mental focus, resilience, and gratitude. That's not just neuroscience, that's self-leadership. And once you taste that, once you realize you can engineer both motivation and meaning, it changes the game. Life stops feeling like something that happens to you and starts feeling like something you design. But that design starts with one simple shift: stop detoxing, start training. Because the real evolution begins when you teach your brain not just to work, but to want to. You don't need another detox. You need direction. Every time you delay cheap pleasure for real progress, you're teaching your brain that effort equals reward. That's the foundation of self-development, of discipline, of every real transformation. You're not escaping dopamine, you're mastering it. And once that happens, productivity stops being a fight. It becomes who you are. But none of this works if it stays as theory. So here's your challenge. Tomorrow morning, do nothing for the first 30 minutes after you wake up. No phone, no noise, no quick hit, just stillness. Let your mind reset. Then, build your day like a dopamine staircase: low first, high later. Watch how your mindset shifts. Watch how you stop chasing pleasure and start earning it. The real question isn't whether this works, it's whether you'll apply it. Because knowledge without action is just another dopamine hit, the kind that fades fast. So take what you learned here and test it. Rewire your mental focus, your time management, your entire personal growth system. You'll feel the difference, not in a week, but in a day. And if this opened your eyes, there's something you must see next. Because controlling dopamine is only half the game. The other half is what you do when motivation dies completely. So watch my next video, the anti-motivation method: how to get things done when you don't feel like it. Because real evolution doesn't start when you feel ready. It starts when you act anyway.